Norwegian black metal hails. This time we have a band called Blodhemn, which is here with their fourth album. Technically speaking, this one is a solo project or solo-driven project, and Sverger Hemn is their fourth album by this one-man operated project. This one is supposed to go out 7th of October 2022, and here we have the only solid member of the band in Visus. Even though Blodhemn is a bit older project, started around 2004, the band has been doing albums for only about 20 years. Well, only 10 years is a good career for any kind of a project. Anyhow, this one is the continuation to the previous album, which I totally have to check out here because couldn't remember this name, Mot ein evig ruin, which was, by the way, already reviewed back in 2019 for the channel when it came out, and it is a good album. Sverger Hemn is also quite a good album, maybe not as good as that one though, but definitely worth checking out if you're into Norwegian black metal, which is then again exactly what Blodhemn is doing. This one is most certainly not reinventing the wheel, as like the saying goes, but quite the contrary. In fact, this is very much like tapping to old ways of the Norwegian black metal, one could say the golden era, and we're roughly talking about the 90s here. Now, Blodhemn doesn't really sound like early 90s albums, more like later 90s or early 2000s, so still very, very traditional in the style, even though it's not the first era of second wave of black metal. But if I were to say whether or not this is the second or third wave of black metal, second wave would be definitely that. So maybe modern album, but of past times in so many ways. It seems that Metal Archives has still yet to update the information here, and I totally forgot to add those track lines. But this is roughly some 41 minutes in total, even though the information is here lacking, and it goes with a nice flow. This album mostly builds upon a couple of main elements. First one being fast tempo. This is one of the kind of a typical things to be, part of second wave black metal. I mean, it's kind of energetic, fast tempo, and rolling forward like there is no tomorrow, and can't really say it's a bad thing here either. The second thing which is here very much dominating are the guitar melodies, which then again are maybe the best part of this album. It could be even more than this, let's be honest about it, but they are the points where you just kind of start clinging on to, because they are very well made and they maintain the good atmosphere throughout the album. Vocals are also pretty goddamn good. They're maybe too Norwegian for a lot of people. I mean, those who are not that happy about Norwegian black metal anymore. I mean, especially since the early 90s. The thing here is, even though they are partly the kind of a typical black metal raspiness, the kind of a screamier sense, not super tight or, super, high pitchy, but they're definitely quite more on that end rather than going into the lower end or growlier parts. What makes this very Norwegian also is how some of the parts are like half clean, almost like ending kind of a grunting, shouting vocals, which is something that a lot of pagan black metal bands seem to be doing. Not exactly going clean, but kind of abandoning that traditional raspy or screamy segment of doing black metal vocals. I'm pretty much that you know what I'm talking about if you give a couple of tracks a listen and then you're like, okay, now I get it. So whether we're talking about bands like, say, Tolke, Helheim, or whatever, like not exactly the maybe biggest cornerstone black metal bands from Norway, be it Mayhem, Dimmu Borgir, Dagthrone, and all that stuff, you will definitely find, kind of familiar elements with the given style. And it's well done, so can't really bitch about it, but it just sounds so goddamn Norwegian that almost feels like no other band, no other style, no other country does this kind of stuff, really. The sound is quite organic. This is quite far from the rawest nor most polished kind of a production. So if we're going to see like this kind of a triangle happening where one point is very much at kind of a raw and primitive sounding, and then you have this super polished, very almost like industry standard kind of a hype sound, and then you have this more organic sound, which is not exactly raw, which is not exactly then again neither very polished or plastic, like almost like non-man-made. This is where this leans, and this you can pretty much hear like this like almost like more space between different instruments, beat guitar sounds, which is quite powerful still, having organic feel to it, like less distorted maybe. And also the bass guitar, in fact, is quite audible, which I think is rather good because it brings another level instead of just having a multitude of different guitar layers on there. Overall, this is pretty good. But people who are kind of used to more powerful nowadays standard sound might feel this like a little bit demo-ish. And also if you're coming from the more primitive sector, you might feel like this is a little bit odd for a black metal band. But these are all matters of taste. There is no perfect sound that would fit all the bands. This is more like, okay, you just have to kind of figure it out and see how it fits the given band. In my opinion, this is quite a good sound, good production overall. Like I said, it's a matter of taste, which would fit this kind of stuff perfectly. Overall, the songwriting is almost like really good all the way, but there are parts where it just kind of keeps the engine rolling, but not exactly pushing the pedal to the max. I'm not saying they are filler parts as such, but this isn't as good, I think, than the previous album, as if something magical is a little bit missing. And I say a little bit because I mean this could be a lot catchier with those melodies and all, but this still maintains the flow throughout the course of action. And by the time you're done with the album, at least I don't have a feeling like, okay, this is a bit boring or this is mediocrity. I mean, quite the contrary. This goes nicely and gives me like this feeling like, okay, I'll give it another shot. I'll give it another spin, and I'm very happy about it. So now the question is whether this is so-called coffee standard or something less of that. Well, I would say this is a little bit something that you need to get used to, but it works for the most parts anyway. So overall, quite a good album, and definitely worth giving a shot, especially if you're into melodic and kind of atmospheric parts of black metal, especially if you're into Norwegian black metal. Give it a go. It's a good one, and I hope you like it. See the links provided in the description box for more information and sound samples, and there you have it. Take care.